Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session of the 2021 online KBHC experience, an offering of Cormont music and our gift to the horn community. In this warm up session, we feature Lauren Becker, Assistant Professor of Horn at the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam, active chamber musician, and freelance orchestral hornist. I'm your moderator, Aaliyah Qualls, current master student in contemporary performance at Berklee College of Music in Valencia, Spain, freelancer and content creator, and avid Beyonce enthusiast. Before we jump into the session, a few Zoom housekeeping items. If you click, so that we may be able to hear the presentation, we've muted all participants. Please stay muted for the duration of the session unless one of our presenters asks you to unmute. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, you should see a participant list pop up with your name at the top. If the name associated with your Zoom account is different from your own first and last name, please click on the blue More button next to your name, select Rename, and enter your first and last name. This will help us know who it is we are communicating with. If you click on Chat at the bottom of the screen, you should see the chat box appear. Comments posted in the chat are affected by the drop-down menu above the text box. Depending upon your selection, your comments may be viewed by everyone or by individual participants. Each time that you enter a comment into the chat, please double check your selection so that your comment is seen by your intended audience. And with that, I'll hand the session off to Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to my warm-up session. Thanks for being here. Today, we're going to go over what I usually do in my day-to-day routine. Sometimes I do change up what I put in there depending on how much time I have to warm up or if I want to try out something new. But whatever I'm doing, I try to make sure my warm-up and maintenance session includes a variety of things. High and low range, as well as the mid-register, slurred and articulated stuff, a variety of dynamics, and so on to meet the playing demands of the day. So as we go through these exercises, please feel free to vary those aspects of the music as we play together. This warm-up covers a variety of skills in a large chunk of register, high and low. So please modify anything to fit your comfort level and range. And feel free to ask questions at any time. If you have anything that needs clarifying or any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. And with that, I'll get started. Would you mind doing the screen share so we can see the warm-up packet? Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to start today by talking about breathing, the most fundamental aspect of horn playing, right? I like to do a breathing exercise on a slow tempo, like we're going to do quarter note equals 60. I think of taking full expansive inhalations, like we're yawning. And in fact, every time I talk about this, I start to yawn. So feel free to join me. Notice as you yawn how open your oral cavity is, how expansive your throat becomes, and how your soft palate, the smushy part in the back of your mouth, raises up. So I'm going to yawn. It's not rude because it's for horn playing, right? So here we go. And I know, yeah, Julie, I'm yawning. I yawn every time I talk about this. I have to stop covering my mouth when I do that because it's for horn playing sake. When we do that, you can really hear how much air we can take in and how relaxed we feel. So as we go through this exercise, I want you to think of taking those kinds of yawning inhalations. I visualize my lungs filling kind of from the bottom up and from out growing outward. When we take a really full inhalation, our lungs are kind of like sitting like little balloons, empty balloons in our torso, right? When they fill up with air, we're going to start to feel expansion in our tummy. You can't really see that on the camera right now, but go ahead and put your hand on your tummy and take a full yawning inhalation and feel a little bit of expansion there. My hand kind of goes out as my lungs fill with air. Other places we want to look for expansion when we're taking full breaths are around our rib cage. So go ahead and put your hands on your rib cage and feel them kind of flare out as you take in a really full breath. And then the last place that's a really good indicator of a full inhalation is our upper back. So you can go ahead and put your hand on your upper back and feel your lungs and back expand out against your hand here. Good. Okay. Now, when you take these really good full inhalations, feel like you're just completely full of air. As we do the exhalation part, strive to empty your lungs completely. So for some of these, you're going to have to blow your air out kind of quickly to make it out in time. And some of them, you're going to have to kind of pace your airstream as we go longer. So I'm going to put my metronome on here. We're going to breathe in for 4, out for 8 twice. In for 3, out for 6 twice. In for 2, out for 4 twice. In for 1, out for 2 twice. And then in for 1 and out for as long as possible. We'll pause in between each set so we can regroup. All right, here we go. In for 4, out for 8. 1, 2, ready, breathe. And again, in. Good. We're going to breathe in for 3, out for 6. Really expansive inhalation. Here we go. 1, 2, breathe. Good. In for 2, out for 4. Here we go. 1, breathe. Good. In for 1, out for 2. And remember, we want to try and take a full, relaxed, expansive inhalation, but we want to really work to fill our lungs in this one beat. So I'll count 1 and then we'll breathe. 1. Good. This time, breathe in for 1 and try and pace your air out for as long as possible. Here we go. 1. I'm just about out of air there. Some of you may still be going and outpacing me. That's awesome. I think this is it's a nice exercise to kind of check in where you are on a given day. It's good to do standing as well. Some people find that they can really tap into their breathing a little better when they're standing. And if you feel like that, totally try this out tomorrow, standing up. Sometimes sitting down is good too, though, because we can get a little bit dizzy. Hopefully none of you felt dizzy there. All right, we're going to move on to some mouthpiece buzzing. Free buzzing and mouthpiece buzzing are great ways to kind of check in with the structure of our embouchure. On this one, we're going to make sure that our slurs are as connected as possible. Try and hit almost like every microtone in the middle as we ascend and descend. And of course, we have a glissando towards the end of this. Really connect those notes together. So let me find my G. For instance, really goopy and connected. If you're hearing kind of like clunky steps, not as desirable, because that means your air is kind of slowing down and then speeding back up for each note. We want to keep our air moving really directly through everything. So let's all match this pitch. We'll go through the pattern together. 1, 2, 3. good. Let's try that up a half step. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start the last one there. As we go through this, you might find we drift in pitch a little bit. That's okay. We're not robots, but we're going to do our best to stay on pitch. And I'm going to challenge you to hold this in your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed. I'm holding it with my left hand towards the bottom of the stem with just a couple of fingers. It might feel a little different, a little slippery, and maybe a little more challenging. If it's too much, switch back to your other hand. But if you're game, go for it. Here we go. Let's match this pitch again. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Good. I hope doing something like this really makes me use my air in a steady stream and helps me just find that structure in my embouchure that I want to transfer to the rest of my playing. You can go as high as is comfortable. You can start down lower. You can emit. You can emit something like if buzzing down to the written middle C here feels too low for you, omit those 2 measures and work towards them at another time. But after some mouthpiece buzzing, I like to get to my first notes of the day. I tend to do this in kind of a mezzo volume. Oh, what is the reason for using your non-dominant hand? Yeah, that's a good question. I find that for me anyway, and some of my students, with our dominant hand, we can apply a little bit more pressure to our chops, to our embouchure, and switching to our non-dominant hand, or even just a weaker finger on our dominant hand, like instead of using your pointer finger, using your ring finger, you can't really apply as much pressure, and you have to rely more on air to activate your buzz. So that's why I tend to do it in my non-dominant hand. That being said, the first few times I tried to do that, I felt like I was going to drop my mouthpiece. So if that's how you're feeling, you're not alone in that. Yeah, sometimes I do use a burp, and I recommend them for my students too. That's the burp device, which I don't have on my horn right now, is the one you can put right here. It's the plastic one that the mouthpiece can go in. What I do like about that also is that you can change valves, so you can practice buzzing something and fingering along to see how your buzz and fingers line up, and then put it back in the lead pipe there pretty easily. Yep, good questions. Anything else about buzzing for now? If I missed something, just hop on in the chat. All right, we'll get to our first notes of the day. So again, I like to do this in a comfy mezzo piano, mezzo forte-ish volume. I take a slow kind of meditative tempo for this. What I'm trying to listen for is creating my most beautiful in-tune sound possible right from the get-go. Breathe in here as needed. I supplied you with some like double breath mark things after the fermata. I can't make this all in one breath unless I'm at a really fast tempo. So breathe wherever you need to. We're going for really connected slurs. If we scroll down a little bit, you can see I have one starting on G and one starting on C. The reason why I did this is because the one starting on G can go a little too low for some folks, right, warming up. So if that's you, go ahead and start on C. You can pick whichever version of this you want. I'm gonna play the one on G. If you start the one on C, it'll still sound really cool. We'll be in like a drone together. Um, if they go too low or starting on third space C feels too high, just change the octave that you're in. But I'm just gonna do the example on the G. And I like to do this with a drone on. I'm not gonna do the whole thing with a drone on with you guys today because I think Zoom might explode. But the reason why I like to do a drone or a sustained pitch, I'm using my tuner here, is because what I start to notice is when I return to, in this case, the written G, if I'm in tune or if I'm undershooting it perhaps from coming from so far below. So I'll put my tuner on the horn pitch G concert C here. And I'll just show you kind of an example. And so on. It can be pretty revealing as you go down, especially into the bass clef lines if you're returning to the right pitch. So yeah, I totally recommend adding a drone onto this. But for today, we're just going to use our metronome. Put our quarter note on, let's see, I'll pick 66 for this. Pick your favorite starting note, G or C, and we'll go through the exercise. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Continuing to the next line. 1, 2, 3. Next line. 1, 2, 3. All right. I just feel like my face feels like it just got a nice stretch. If you do this more quickly at a faster tempo, it's obviously a different challenge and flexibility. But I kind of like to approach it a little bit more slowly as I'm starting to get warmed up. Good. Okay, so we're going to move on to some lip slurs. Lip slurs are the building blocks of brass playing. We want to work in lip slurs for speed, flexibility, and control as well. We want to go for a really smooth, direct airstream, kind of like when we were buzzing. We don't want them to sound clunky. That's a little bit clunky. We want to work for smoothness and control. These are all going to be starting open on the F side. You'll notice that that written B flat is really flat. It's our seventh harmonic. It's supposed to be flat. Enjoy it. You have full permission to play out of tune here. It's kind of the best. It sounds really rustic, so don't try and correct that. And I gave you an octave adjustment on the last measure, depending on what you feel like doing. If the low note is too low for you, go back to the middle C. There are tons of lip slur exercises. I just made this one up, although it's probably borrowed from somebody else along the way. The Farkas Art of French Horn Playing book, Toiber Progressive Studies in Flexibility and Range Development have a ton of lip slur patterns. I was just reading Jeff Agrell's new book, actually, which I didn't put in here, but I will for next time I do this class. Horn Technique, that has a ton of different lip slurs. And they have them also on the B flat side of the horn with our thumb valve. I do a lot of F horn ones, but it's really good to be able to do both sides of the horn. So we'll do some F side ones today, but definitely look into some B flat horn ones. Jeff Agrell has a ton in his book, so I'd recommend that. I'm going to put my metronome on, I'll keep it on 66. And we'll go through the C major one. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, and good. Oh, and thanks for putting that link in, Julie. It's a great book. Let's continue downwards on the F side. We'll do some on second valve. If this tempo feels too fast for you, you can mute me, put on your own, go ahead and do it at your own pace. We need to work towards speed and flexibility. If this is too slow for you, go ahead and mute me and do them faster too. That's totally fine. Let's continue down on second valve. Starting there. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, first valve, here we go. One and two. All right, 2 and 3. All continue and finish this out. I noticed that a lot of books, like the Toyper book, for instance, which I think Julie just put in the chat. Thanks, Julie. They stop at 2 and 3. And don't do 1 and 3 and 1, 2, and 3. But I'm kind of a glutton for punishment, so I'm going to keep on going and do all the valve combinations we can. 1 and 3 and 1, 2, and 3 are just more resistant. They're more stuffy, and they're harder for me anyway to maneuver. So if you find that that's true for you, slow the tempo down. They also eat up a little bit more air. So if you do longer range lip slur patterns on this, you might find you are like out of air when you're trying to do 1, 2, and 3. But the benefit of working on these valve combinations is like, I mean, if you can make a lip slur on 1, 2, and 3 sound pretty decent, it makes everything feel a lot easier. It makes your open F side ones feel a lot easier, which makes all of your repertoire feel easier. And it just helps with overall general flexibility of playing. So we're going to continue on with 1 and 3 on that G. Let's play it together so we can really feel that note. Really stuffy. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Nice. And the last one, the world's most out of tune fingering on the horn. 1, 2, and 3. Sounds like this. All right, here we go. 3, 4. That one. I also highly recommend crafting your own lip slur patterns. I told you I just kind of made this one up based on like the millions of other lip slur patterns I've played. If you're working on something like, I don't know, the Beethoven Sonata, you know, the end of that first movement, a great lip slur pattern to practice in your warm-up would be etc., etc. You can do it slurred, you can do it articulated after. If you can get that kind of flexibility and focus in your embouchure, it makes playing whatever repertoire you're working on a lot easier with your normal fingerings. All right. So let's move on down to, finally, we're getting to some slurred and articulated patterns. I am straight up stealing from our trumpet friends. I like to do the second study from Clark's technical studies for the cornet. I like the smaller kind of condensed scalar patterns. I do all my scales later on in multiple octaves in my warm-up, but at this point in my warm-up, I'm still feeling like I want to focus on small segments of range, and also it helps me listen in on how my connections between neighbor notes are, and if my timbre, my tone color, is even when shifting around in these small scalar patterns. So this is one that I like to do. You can also make up your own. That's something I do too sometimes. You can do them in major or minor or in modes if you're feeling inspired by that kind of a sound. But this is the one we'll be doing today. I'll play the one, I wrote it out at C major at the top. It sounds kind of like this. I like to do them twice, once slurred and once articulated. The reason for that is because doing the slurred version first kind of reminds me about how my airstream should be moving through the phrase when I'm articulating it. When I do these in my warm-up and I have oodles of time, I like to start on low C on the bass clef where it says start here, and I usually end on third space C, but you can tailor these to the range that is comfortable for you. And I totally recommend working for tempo, working up to a faster tempo, but starting slow and steady so you can really hear what you're playing and evaluate what you're playing while you're doing it. Vary the dynamics, vary the articulation length. So some of these you can do legato, some you can do staccato, some you can do mixed articulation like slur to, tongue to. Sky's the limit. And I definitely recommend changing some of them into minor if you're feeling like you're up for a different challenge. Harmonic minor sounds really kind of spicy, so I like doing that one too. And we're going to do some of these together, but don't worry if you don't have your Clark studies memorized. I have them all written out for you. Do you want to get that document up? Because, I'm not a monster. These are hard to do, especially if you've never seen them. We're going to start, I think, on G major, which is about halfway down the page. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thanks for circling that right there. We're going to start on that one. Let's do this version slurred together. I'll get my metronome on. We'll do it at 60. So I'm just going to do another mezzo forte-ish one, all slurred, so it'll sound something like this. Etc., etc. I'll try that one together. Here we go. G major. 1, 2, 3. And this one falls kind of right in the middle of where I have a break around G. I kind of feel like I have to do a lot of gymnastics and shifting in my face and my whole setup here. So working on these smaller scale patterns can really help you learn how to shift from each note and kind of up and down and back around. For time's sake, we're going to just keep going. We're going to go to A flat next, up by a half step. If some of these keys are not as familiar to you, don't despair. You can practice them more slowly. You can mute me again and do it at your own pace. I'm going to do this one articulated. Normally I do them twice in a row, slurred and articulated, but we'll just kind of go back and forth. So here we go. A flat major, articulated. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. A major slurred. Okay, B flat major. I'm going to try for a legato tongue this time. B major slurred again. And we'll do good old C major. Yay. Staccato. Let's try staccato. Ready? D flat major. We'll do that one slurred again. Ready? Let's try slur to, tongue to for the articulation for D major and see how that goes. Ready? Good. Would you mind scrolling down a little bit on the, thanks. Let's jump ahead a little bit in key because I want to make sure we start to get towards the top of a range. Let's do the bottom line G major. Emily's asking the whole exercise is on F horn, right? Even in the lower register. You can definitely do that. I do some B flat horn in the lower register sometimes. Sometimes I do F horn. I don't know. I guess it's just depending on how I'm feeling. I think it's more of a challenge to do it on the F side in the low register personally. So there's a benefit for that because you're making your life a little bit more difficult. But sometimes I just like to switch back and forth because that's what we do. That's what I do when I'm playing repertoire. So I, for some reason, have this quirky habit of staying on the F side as I ascend in my clerk studies. I kind of do the opposite. So even starting on A and B and C and G above the staff, I stay on the F side. I don't know. I think it might be because I studied with some big fans of the F horn, and so I kind of do it. But when I have my students do this, I have them do whatever fingerings they feel. Yeah, that's PK for you. I have them do whatever fingerings feel comfortable. So you should all do whatever fingerings feel comfortable for you today. Okay. Let's start on G major at the bottom of page 2. I'll just do this one slurred. Here we go. 1, 2, ready. A flat, let's do it articulated. Choose your own articulation here. Let's do A major slurred, and how about at a forte volume? Not like blastissimo, but just really nice and full. Here we go. Let's stay loud and do B flat major, staccato, and forte. Let's do B major, slurred, and piano, or mezzo piano, or whatever feels kind of soft and accessible for you now. Okay, and we'll end with C major here on third space C. This will be a choose your own adventure. So pick your favorite articulation, dynamic, all of that stuff. Here we go. Good. So after I do a bunch of these, I start to feel like I'm really warmed up. Again, I usually do them twice in a row if I have time, but some days when I'm short in time, I'll pick a range to do them in. Sometimes I'll go a lot lower than the low C because I'm working on stuff in the basement in the low register. So it just kind of depends on what I need that day. So I encourage you to take these as slow or fast as you can with a good sound, good fluidity, and accuracy, or make up your own scale patterns because it's kind of fun to make up your own exercises. All right, we're gonna move on to some harmonic series glissandi. If you were at my session yesterday on range expansion, this is going to be a little bit of a review. And the reason is because I actually do this. I do this in my own warm up every day. It's the one thing that for me helps me like really move my air, make me feel warmed up. It's, I think we all have our preferred kind of exercise, and this has become mine. That being said, when I first started working on some of these harmonic series exercises, they were not my favorite because they felt cumbersome and kind of clunky, and like I got stuck when I was trying to like go up to an octave. I get stuck like right below that note, like there was some sort of ceiling holding me back from hitting the top note. But over time, I've really come to like these. So we're gonna do them with all the same fingering. I wrote it out in G major at the top because I think it looks clean. We're going to start on F sharp really, but the F sharp one is a little cluttered looking. So I'll go ahead and play it for you. This G one is on 1 and 3. When we play these, I want to use a healthy sound and full volume. Some of these harmonics are going to be super out of tune, like the written C in this case. Don't try and change it. Just love the rustic sound of this, the very natural sound of this. If we try and change it and move it with our chops, we're not going to be as get the most benefit out of this exercise. So when we do the glissando, you're going to notice that there are 5 notes up between that 5th G to D. And when we go for the octave, there are actually 9 notes up on the way up and down. The uppermost note of each little glissandi set is definitely not the goal of this. All of those notes I just played for you on the way up are way more important in terms of building strength, flexibility, and range development than just like trying to pick out the top note. And in fact, if you play this and you kind of get stuck, oh, that happens to me all the time. Just bail, come back down, and then continue up a half step. Yeah, it's the journey, the death. That's right. Continue up 1 half step higher, because oftentimes when we reach 1 half step higher than what feels like our top, we usually hit the note we were just trying to get before with some sort of different harmonic fingering. So you're still building range even if you're not hitting the tippy top note here. You should tailor this kind of an exercise to your own range and comfort and the demands of like the day. If you have a ton of playing to do today, and playing a bunch of high notes isn't going to feel good for you, you should lay out for some of this. If playing glissandi feels like in the octave not comfortable for you yet, repeat the one that traverses a perfect 5th instead. You're still getting the benefit out of it. They're supposed to feel easy, over time, right, as we work on these. So if they don't, regroup, try again, and we want to rely on increasing speed of air as we ascend rather than pressure, mouthpiece pressure, and tension. I like this exercise a lot because it kind of does double duty for me too. It's really working kind of lip trill type stuff, right? That's a lip trill, right? It's a slower lip trill, but it's still lip trill. So we get kind of a lot of benefits out of this one. When I was a younger horn player, I struggled a lot in the upper register. And I had a teacher when I was having a lesson, and I couldn't really play things towards the top of the treble clef or above. And he asked me, well, you just got to play those notes. And I was like, well, I can't play them. And he's like, well, how often do you practice in the upper register? And I was like, well, I can't play those notes, so I don't practice up there. And he was like, there's a problem, right? Like, do you see the problem? I was like, oh, right. Okay. I need to start maybe incorporating upper register stuff in to get better at it. So if you sympathize with that statement, if upper register is a struggle for you or has been a struggle for you or for your students, I encourage you to find a high register exercise that works for you and put it in your daily routine. Once you start doing that, over time, you'll start to notice a lot of benefit. We're going to start together now on F sharp, where it says start here on the F side with fingering 1, 2, and 3. Again, the world's most out of tune fingering on the horn. So it's an F sharp, right? Here's a normal F sharp. Here it is with 1, 2, and 3. Don't be alarmed. It's supposed to be out of tune. You have permission to play out of tune here. I'm going to put my metronome on just to kind of keep us together for today. But if it's too fast, too slow, go ahead and mute me and do it at your own pace. If you don't like the octave one, just repeat the one that's the perfect fifth, okay? So I'll do my metronome at 68 for now. Something like that. Let's find that 1, 2, and 3 note again together. Here we go. 1 and 2, 3. Up a half step, G with 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm so sorry. I think I've been double timing my eighth notes here. Sorry about that. I usually do this as 16th notes. Sorry about that. That'll keep us together a little bit better. Let's start on 2 and 3. And I'll be better with my rhythm. 3 and tell it's an exercise I do every day because I just go on autopilot there. Let's try up a half step, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3. Continue onwards and upwards, so we all can kind of aim towards the third space C. If that is way too high for you, repeat the other ones that we've already been doing, or again, just do the perfect fifth version, glissando, twice instead of going for the octave. You should modify any exercise that you encounter for your range, for how you're feeling that day. And if anything feels uncomfortable, you should stop, regroup, and do it in a better way for you. So we'll continue on. First valve, second valve, open on the F side. We'll start on B flat. Here's our B flat. 1 and 2 and 3. Second valve, up a half step. 1, 2, 3. that feels comfortable, then you can keep going up higher. If I started with D flat, I have the fingerings down there. If this looks horrifying to you, then don't do that. Stop where it's comfortable for you. But I think not making high C the ceiling of our upper register, it does really help psychologically, right? Like if you see a high C in the piece and you're like, that is the highest note that a horn player can possibly play, like it can cause a lot of like anxiety and tension actually when you have to go for it. But if you're like, well, I've been practicing glissando and I've been eking out a sort of D flat and maybe a D once in a while. So when I see a C, it doesn't seem too high. And then when I see a B flat in Strauss or whatever, then it definitely doesn't seem quite as high. When this exercise starts to feel easy, you can speed up the tempo like I was doing before. Sorry, I went on autopilot there for a second. I usually play this a little bit faster. And then I do it in 2 or 3 octaves over time. And I've worked on this over time. This wasn't like the first time that I, went to play an exercise like this. I was ripping out 3 octave stuff, but usually I'll do something like and just kind of like noodle around so that I can feel how my air has to speed up and down and back around. And then as I'm playing through this, I try and replicate that feeling. If I'm going to play a scale, I try and replicate how it feels free and easy to blow through a glissando. So that's a way you can kind of tailor this and make it more difficult for yourself. Julie asked a question. How strictly do you personally stick to the particular warm-up routine on a regular basis? Of course, you alter things based on time you have and rep to play. Which exercises are the ones that you make sure to do more often than not? That's a great question. Okay, the things that for me, I like to do. Oh, thanks, Bella. I'm glad you like my glissandos. Nice to see you, Bella. The things that help me the most, I would say a little bit of mouthpiece buzzing right at the beginning. It just gets me feeling focused. I don't even have to do as much as we did today, but just a little tiny bit. I like to do some Clark studies or scale patterns. The chromatic noodling at the beginning I like to do, but maybe I don't do as much of it if I'm really short on time. And glissandos, I definitely do every day. If I had to pick one thing to do, this is for me is the exercise that helps me get acquainted again with how I have to use my air, rely on my air, and increasing air speed as I ascend and decreasing air speed as I descend, to get me to play reps. So if I have like 3 minutes to warm up before a rehearsal, which I would never do, of course, but if that's what happened, I'd probably do. I'd even make this one kind of smaller. But that's just me. Other people love to do long tones. That's like the thing that gets them feeling focused. I do those later on in my practice sessions. For me, first thing, they kind of leave me feeling a little stiff. So I think we're all kind of working on different skills. We're all different players and people, and you're going to find that there are some exercises that really jive for you. It might not be this one, and that's okay. But thanks for the question, Julie. All right, and let's go on to the last page here. This is more about maintenance. I am like definitely warmed up by now. Like this is like warm up happens maybe, I don't know, 5 to 20 minutes in, right? I'm feeling very warmed up. So at some point my warm up starts to feel to me more like maintenance. I'm working on skills to maintain a level of playing and to work on improving those skills. So scales, arpeggios, and long tones are all critical elements of a cohesive warm-up and maintenance session. If you do all of the things that you are learning about like this week from everybody, long tones, scales, arpeggios, glissandos, Clark studies, whatever, you would probably be exhausted. That's like more than a warm-up, but it's about kind of maintenance and working on skills. Scales and arpeggios should be done in varying keys and meters, speeds, and articulations. Diatonically, chromatically, in thirds or other intervals are really great to do. and as many octaves as possible. So if you've got one octave up your sleeve, get really good at that and work towards two. If you've got two octaves up your sleeve, why stop at two? Work on three. If you know your major scales really well, there's no better time like the present to start working on minors, right? And other elements, I just put a scale pattern down there that, I kind of like to do if when I'm working on my scales. You would obviously want to do this in all keys, major, minor. Um, and then other elements, lip trills. We kind of got a baby lip trill exercise out of our glissando one. Stabbed horn practice, transposition, multiple tonguing, endurance work, and more. There's just so many skills we can work on all the time on the horn. So you can throw some exercises right in your warm-up session to address those if it's something you're working on, like how I threw high horn stuff in. Or put it on later in a different practice session. But that's basically my whole warm-up routine. Are there any questions in our last couple minutes here or concerns? I'm trying to find the chat, so if there actually are if someone wants to help me. There we go.
None in the chat just yet, but if you do have some, feel free to put them there and I will pass them along.
Oh, and how do you put in the keys to transposition book? Yeah. That's a great transposition book. Highly recommend. Good. And then another warm-up book that I really like is Doug Hill's Warm-Up and Maintenance Routines. I kind of got some ideas from him when I was at Horn Camp, actually, and bought that book from him there. It's a really great book. Sorry I don't have a link for you guys. I'll try and look it up. But yeah, that's it. I hope you're feeling warmed up and oh, got a question. Let's see. What's
Yep. Or I can read it if you
yeah, go ahead and read it.
Cool. Emily wants to know, what's your philosophy on days off? Do you take a complete day off every now and then?
I do. This is a controversial topic, I know. I would say for me, as I've developed as a player, I think I find it better to try and take a lighter playing day, like try and do a quick warm-up maintenance routine. If I can do that, even 15 minutes of playing makes me feel better when I, start practicing again. But, that being said, there are certain times of year, or if you're going on a vacation, or you've just done a very strenuous amount of playing, like, I think taking a day off is okay. But if you're studying with a teacher, talk to your teacher first. They're the boss, okay? This is just my opinion. But yeah, I think that a day off once in a while, or if you go on vacation and make the conscious decision not to pack your horn, cool, do it. Don't feel guilty about it. Have a plan when you come back about how to get back in shape, and maybe don't book a gig the day after you get back from a 10-day vacation to wherever. But yeah, I think rest is an important component of building strength and endurance, and just mentally, sometimes you just need a day. But again, I advocate more than a complete day off. Maybe just a lighter maintenance session. 15 to 30 minutes of playing will keep you in better shape than I think a full day off. But yeah, that's a good question. Anything? Yeah,
cool.
I sympathize, Emily.
And then the links to some of the resources that were mentioned are also in the chat, so check those out if you need. There are no more questions, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So thank you so much for joining this session of the 2021 online KBHC experience, an offering of Cormont Music and our gift to the horn community. Please join us at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time for Who Was Ward O. Fern with Carolyn Blyce, former member of the Florida Symphony Orchestra and Orlando Philharmonic and current horn instructor at Rollins College. We also invite you to join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for our evening session, Teacher Talk, led by Douglas Hill, emeritus faculty at the University of Wisconsin-Madison from 1974 to 2011, past president of the International Horn Society, recorded soloist, published author, and composer, and past faculty at KBHC, and featuring current KBHC faculty members Patrick Hughes, Dr. Peggy Moran, Dr. Natalie Douglas Grana, Randy Gardner, Sergeant First Class J.G. Miller, and Jeff Agrell. In the meantime, please check us out on our various social media platforms. You can subscribe to our YouTube page by searching for Kendall Betts Horn Camp. You can also find us on Facebook using @KB Horn Camp and Instagram using @official_KBHC. Anytime you post about us or share something we posted, be sure to include the hashtag KBHC2021. Finally, please visit us at horncamp.org for more information about our upcoming online and in-person offerings. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.